the most effective video has to have, a key message. It has to have one call to action, and it has to have a very, very targeted, very specific niche. Niche weird. This is like one of the sayings that a friend of mine taught me.
Hi, folks. Welcome to episode number 3 of the In Focus podcast, where my goal is to help you establish a clear vision and strategy for your marketing and branding of your agriculture business through video. Hi, folks. I'm your host, Austin Black. I own Backroad Productions, a marketing agency and production company that specializes in video marketing, branding, and strategy. We service brands in the agriculture and outdoor industries, and I am so glad to have you join us today on episode number 3 of this podcast. This is a 7-episode season where we discuss the 7 steps covered in our video strategy workshop. If you missed out on episode number 1 and 2, be sure and go back and start there, as this does lay a foundation for the different steps you need to know about as you plan your video strategy. I see way too many companies, they produce a video without having a clear expectation or goal of how that video is supposed to perform. And when it all comes down to the end, the videos do not perform, and those companies waste time and money producing them. So my goal through this podcast is to simply help you create a plan that is easy to follow and leads to a successful campaign. So we're visiting with experts, we're visiting with business owners who have experience in each of these topics to share their knowledge, their insight of what they do in their business and how you can incorporate the same tactics within your business. On today's episode, we're going to talk about creating that key message. And my guest for today's show is Ryan Koral with Tail Studios and Studio Sherpas. Now, Ryan is not an ag guy. He does not have a solid understanding of the agricultural business, but he does know about storytelling. That's what we're going to talk about today, is how to develop your key marketing message. Today, we're going to talk about important elements to include in your marketing message and some things that you maybe want to avoid talking about that really don't make a big difference. We're going to discuss why developing a key message is so important in your marketing and when you should talk about the what, where, when, and how of your marketing message versus just your branding in general. We're also going to discuss some of the biggest mistakes that clients make when they're developing their key marketing message. So hopefully you come away from today's episode with a better understanding of how to tell your story in simple terms. Folks, without further ado, let's jump into episode number 3 with Ryan Koral. Hey everybody, we are here on the In Focus podcast. I'm with my crazy, wonderful, and awesome friend, Ryan Koral. Ryan is the founder and chief strategy guide of Tail Studios. He also is the man behind the Studio Sherpas podcast courses and all things wonderful. Ryan is 15 years as a documentary filmmaker and business owner, so he's been around the block a little bit. He loves building partnerships with clients and telling authentic stories that inspire action and help businesses grow. He is a husband of 16 years, a father of 3 wonderful kids, and when he's not coming up with really cool and big ideas, you can usually find him laughing or enjoying a cup of coffee, and we hope it's not at the same time, right, Ryan?
It's never a good combo.
Well, Ryan, I am very pleased to have you on the show today. I know you have a lot of passion around this topic of storytelling and developing your key message. I'm excited to hear what you have to share with our audience today. Start off, just tell me about yourself and about Tail Studios. Who are you and what are you guys doing?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on the show. This is super fun, Austin. I have loved getting to know you and have seen your business grow and your passion for working in the agriculture industry. You say it short. You say ag.
Ag is the shorthand because I have a really hard time saying agriculture. It just tugs.
I think I just stumbled over it. So Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for what you're doing, and a teeny bit of experience, our own kind of doing some ag work in the past. So it's just fun to experience a little bit of what you get to experience on a more frequent basis. So thanks for having me. And also, I just celebrated 17 years. I need to update my profile. My wife and I have been married for 17 years, and she still likes me.
Congratulations.
Promise. Thank you. If you ask her, she would say that I still like you, Ryan. My husband. So I started doing this work 15 years ago. I kind of fell into it accidentally. I was working at a small college, and I was in charge of hosting events and getting people getting exposure to the college. And somehow I'd always had a love and passion for video, but the technology just wasn't there to be able to do a lot with it. And kind of at the same time I was in this position, I had somehow convinced the college to buy me a laptop and a digital video camera. And back then iMovie was like they just transitioned over to digital, and you could do everything right on your computer there. And so I started doing little promo videos for the college, and pretty much immediately after that realized that this was something that I wanted to do all of my waking hours. And so after a few months of doing projects for the college, my wife and I were newly married, and we just said, let's try and do this thing, like really do it, go full time. I left the college and haven't looked back since. And we've done, early on, we did a lot of work. Our focus was wedding filmmaking. I really became passionate about telling couples stories, creating legacy pieces for their families. And I just love people. I love that everyone has a story, and to be able to create something beautiful, cinematic, and engaging. I got really excited about that. And so we did that for a bunch of years. And then because we're based in Michigan, weddings really only happen barely half of the year. I mean, people still do get married, I think, in the colder times, but for like doing video stuff, nobody really wants to do video in the snow and icy roads and all that stuff. So we decided that we need to help businesses tell stories. And so we've been telling businesses stories for about 8 years now, which has been really, really fulfilling. I was afraid that we were just going to get caught up into working with businesses and helping them make more money, which I didn't really care about. But as soon as I realized that I could tell their stories and kind of get to the heart and soul of what they do and why they do it, that got me really excited. And so we work with all sorts of different brands. We don't have a very specific brand that we work with all the time, or a specific industry. But we're passionate about telling stories and, like I said, getting to the heart and soul of who the business is, why people should care about them. And it's been a fun ride. Actually, I'm going to retire right now. I'm done. Thanks, man. See ya.
Farewell, right?
It's my farewell tour.
Now, I do have to give you a hard time because your northern accent came out a little bit there, and I usually make fun of people that have a northern accent.
Not sure there's such a thing.
So we'll just leave it at that and say that you talk like a UPer.
All right. What was it? Was it a word that I said, or
up here 8 years from now?
Oh boy. Hopefully my southern draw doesn't come out.
Yeah, I hope not, because you probably can't do as well as others. Well, Ryan, today we're talking about developing your key message for your video marketing campaign. Why is that step of developing a key message, why is that so important when you're creating a marketing campaign, specifically a video for marketing?
Well, Austin, I'm glad that you asked that question. Key message, I feel like we get so distracted, especially online. And since most of what we produce for people is online stuff, there's hardly any of us are doing work, that's going on cable TV. It's just, it makes so much more sense for brands to be doing stuff online for visibility and brand awareness and all that stuff. So, our attention spans are super short because there's so many things to click on and watch and do, and so many tabs and so many windows. And it's just like oh my gosh, this is just not good for our brains and our hearts and all that stuff. So having a key message, one key message in your campaign, in your video, it's so important because, unfortunately I think our brains are getting smaller, and we can't handle that much. So, the way that I think about key message is, there's one thing that you want to communicate in your video, and we're talking video specifically, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, and I guess that kind of just goes whatever. If it's a video, if it's a podcast, the I think the most effective video, and when you're spending a lot of money and you're spending a lot of time creating something like a really nice video production, um, you really should only have one key message, and you should have you can have like supporting things that support your one key message, but along with your key message, there really should only be, and this is my personal opinion, but there should only be one call to action, and there should always be some kind of call to action, and that call to action could be something like sign up for our email list to learn more, go to this website to learn more, get our free PDF. If you go to this page, sign up for a free course here, call us at this number, visit us at our address, eat a banana if you like them. I don't know. But in the call to action could really just be a change of mind, right? The hope is that after somebody watches this, they think differently about whatever, your key message is. So we get confused. We get bombarded with so many things. I think the most effective use of people's money and time when doing a production for their own business, or as the consumer, the best use of my time is for you to tell me one thing, to tell me really well, and to give me one thing that I need to do because of it.
So do you think that it's a matter of being overrun with marketing and messages that we can't process everything, or do we think that we literally don't have the attention to take more than one story? Because I know in the past, marketing stories were all about the company and all about the people and all about 5-10 different features of a brand and what was going on, what they were providing, and there was a lot of information out there. And now we're looking at very short, very direct, very succinct, focused marketing messages. How have you seen that change over time, and why do you think we're at that point today versus 20 years ago?
That's a great question. I think there's probably a lot of different ways to answer this.
Kind of put you on the spot
I
with
think
that one.
I think people are just tired of being sold to, being marketed to, because it is literally everywhere now. It used to be you would just sit down, if you got a newspaper, you'd get an ad there, or not ads there. You watch TV, you get commercials, you go for a drive, you see billboards. That was kind of, I think that's like the majority of ads. Now it's like, we carry these around wherever we go. So it's everywhere. And like, even our poor sports teams, they've been commercialized and have been bought out by, brands. And so it's like literally just everywhere. So it's overwhelmed. And I also think that part of our problem in marketing today, it's just a lot different, because today people don't care about all of your features. People don't care that you've been in business for 16 years. Who cares that I've been that's 17 years. I don't know, long time. Married 17, business 16, I think. People just don't care about that stuff anymore. They care about, we're just way more self-focused, self-centered, good or bad, probably a little bad, but we think, what is it? With them, what's in it for me? Like when I'm listening to a marketing message, if they come on and say like, check us out, we're this big, we've got this is on sale, this is this. I don't care about, like, as soon as if they can address a problem that I'm having, like if I don't sleep well or I have a bad back or whatever, if they can engage me and let me know like, hey, like, bad back guy, having trouble sleeping, terrible example, but that is going to resonate with me. Or if I hear something that's emotional and compelling and, gets me to lean in, I don't care if you've been in business for 16 years, Ryan. I don't care that you have HD or Blu-ray cameras, or that's not even a thing. Blu-ray. I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't care that you've got studio lights and those things. Can't I have a need for a sweet video that's going to get people interested in my product, or that could go viral, or whatever. Can you help me? Okay, well, are the lights going to help me? Then, okay, maybe that can be part of your solution. Or is your location, do I care what your building looks like? Sorry, I'm just finishing my coffee, and I'm a little bit passionate about this. So between those two things, I think we should really change our focus of what we're telling people, how we're talking to people. Our key message shouldn't be about us. I love Donald Miller, brand story, story brand. Yeah. Building a story brand. His approach, I feel like anybody that's in marketing should read this book. And he's got free video courses and just lots of really good stuff. But his whole thing is, let your customers be the hero. So stop being the one that's like, look at me, look at all the things that we can provide you with, to really figuring out like who is your audience. Let them become the hero and address their pain points. And you are the guide in this story, if you will. And you come alongside and you want to help them. You want to help them with their problem or their struggle, or this thing that they need to overcome. So really putting the focus on them. Stop talking about we've done this, we've been in business, and say, hey, you might have a problem sleeping. It's such a weird example, but maybe it's because I took a nap a little bit earlier today. I don't know. So that's kind of my thinking.
Know you're not tired because you had your coffee, so that's you're not thinking about sleep.
Yeah, I'm over that.
So something that I have.
Helpful? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, and that's exactly the same philosophy I have. I mean, you're the genius in this regard.
Sorry, I have sound effects on my board here, so clapping for myself.
So going along with that mentality, because this is something that I'm sure you probably face as well as I do, when we're talking with a client, and they instinctively always go to the we do, we are. I mean, the story that they want to share is always starting with them,
and because
it's great.
Natural.
We're thinking about that.
Yeah.
What do we need to be thinking about instead, though? What are the elements that those brands need to actually switch over to include within their message? We're not talking about what you can do. What are we talking about?
Well, yeah, I have thoughts on this too. I think first off, people, and only because, having done this for 16 plus years or whatever, people are going to spend a lot of money on a video production. People that we work with, we're not the cheapest company on the block, and we tell people that. And so they think, okay, well, we're going to do this video. We want it to get maximum exposure. So we'll ask the question, okay, who's your audience? And they'll just be like, everybody. Like, we want everybody to see this thing. We want people to share it. We want people to watch it and cry when they see it. And we want it to be, I mean, hopefully viral. You guys have that plugin. Can you make it viral? and it's like, the most effective video has to have, a key message. It has to have one call to action, and it has to have a very, very targeted, very specific niche weird. This is like one of the sayings that a friend of mine taught me, where it's like, okay, niche down, say like, okay, so we're after, agriculture companies. Okay, well, that's still like, that's a niche compared to, everybody in the world.
Right.
But what can you further that? Can you weed that down one more time? See, weeds, agriculture. See what I'm doing there? So the next level niche would be like, okay, how about agriculture companies in Kentucky? Okay, well, that's okay. So now we're getting like pretty specific, and you can keep going by location, or you could say like, well, let's do agriculture companies that only employ minorities. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is really niche down. And then the weird is like, something like only people that talk with northern accents. So it's like agriculture companies based in Kentucky that, minority agriculture companies that talk with northern accents. Like that's like very specific, right? That might be
and
like, I don't
completely
know.
non-existent.
Okay, so you can get too far down, maybe. But the point is, people will just say like agriculture, right? That's who our target is, and it's like maybe like marketers inside of agriculture. Okay, like now you're, but what about companies that are 100 people or bigger, 100 employees or bigger? I don't know what the things are, but there are things that, when you're looking for a new car, you can filter down, and that's the idea here, is that you have to pick an audience, and it has to be very, very focused. The more focused you can make it, the more it's going to resonate with those people, because what you're going to do inside of that super refined niche is you're going to speak exactly to their pain point. You have to understand that they have a problem. They know that they have a problem. They might not be able to put words to it or whatever, but they have a problem, and you are there to help guide them to some kind of a solution. So if you can focus that niche, if you can talk about their problem, if you could talk about what life could look like without that problem, if they were to overcome that problem, to kind of, plant the seed of hope. And all these like planting a seed. I'm just full of them. And once people start to think like, yeah, what would life look like if I didn't have, back pain or whatever? And then as the guide, this is how you help people overcome this problem. So now they see a solution. So I think that's kind of a formula that I want to use when we approach new projects, and helping clients kind of like understand that, rather than you just talking about here's all your features and benefits, let's get to the point. Let's get to the problem of this very specific audience. So choosing a very specific audience, identifying what the problem is, talking about what life could look like when you don't have that problem, and then how you will help them overcome that problem. I think that's a key to a winning solution. It's my corporate speak.
And you almost have to put yourself in your customer's shoes and forget about, I think, what you're trying to sell them, and think about why do they need to buy it? What is it important to them?
Yeah.
If you're a business owner or a marketer, you know exactly all the features of your product or service. You know why it's so great, why it's better than the competitors, why you created it, how long it's been around, all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, all your customer really cares about is what does it do for me? And it's so hard sometimes, I think, to remove even ourselves from that spot of trying to market that product for what it is and understand what does it do, and how do people relate to it. And I think that's something that really speaks through the message. If you can put ourselves in the customer's shoes and understand what is important to them, and like you're saying, what problem does this solve? Not necessarily what does it do, but why do I need it? Then we're making progress.
Yeah, I think that, that's totally spot on. The other thing to think about too, like when I think about marketing videos, when I think that people are coming to us for a marketing video, I'm thinking, and I'll ask them a lot of questions, but to make sure that I'm not making an assumption here, but I'm assuming that they want something that reaches a broader audience, that they know that they just need some kind of awareness piece, right? So there is a time and a place for the features and the benefits video. That piece probably is not going to be as sexy as or as intriguing as your like brand awareness piece, but like your top of funnel piece should be more like general, speaking to a very specific audience still, but more general, because you're trying to reach a bigger population inside of that niche. And if those people say like, I like this message that I'm hearing, I want to do some more investigating. So you don't make one video that has all of the steps of the funnel, all the layers of the funnel. Like you want to, kind of create this awareness, get them to say like, yeah, I want more information. Like I want to sign up for your free PDF, or I want to go to this web page that's going to give me more information. And then that web page could have, here's all the features. Here are the benefits of the features, making sure that you're talking about the benefits. Because again, the features are more like, this does, moves 100,000 pounds of soil or seeds or whatever, and at this rate, and that's great. But if you can talk about like, hey, this moves things at 100,000 pounds, I am talking such dumb talk right now. Sorry, I'm trying to enter your world, but but it moves this stuff this fast so that you can get back to doing the thing that you love, so that you can go home at a decent time because your work gets done much faster. So when I talk about benefits, I'm always adding in that so people will say like, okay, well, let's put in a bullet point that says, it's the fastest machine. Okay, but who cares? Like, so what? It's the fastest machine so that you can leave your work earlier because that's again, we're addressing pain points even at that level. Yes. So we're the next step down in the funnel, where we're not trying to draw people in with like all this sexy imagery. Now we got to kind of talk some nuts and bolts about the product or the service that we're offering. And so at that point, having a talking head, having a guy or gal go through, here are the things, and here's why it's probably important to you. Here's why it might resonate with you. So I say all that to say it's totally okay, because I think a lot of people have those kinds of videos and want those kinds of videos, because if they're going to spend a lot of money, they want it to be able to do a lot of things. But understanding, where do you need this video? Do you need it at the top of the funnel? Do you need more awareness? Or are so many people already coming to your website, they just need the actual information, like why you're different than, this company over here? That's a different piece, and that should have a different message and a different feel to it.
Absolutely. And the thought that crossed my mind as you're sharing that, we look at pharmaceutical companies that are selling, vaccines and antibiotics for cattle. They have to market those products. They have to communicate the value of those vaccines and those antibiotics to take care of the cattle, to be cost effective, to keep the animal healthy, to get the job done, to save you money and to make you money, which those are all really important features, really important benefits that cattle producers have to consider. At the same time, the deeper message of why you're going with that company is you want someone that cares about animal welfare as much as you do. You want someone that wants you to remain profitable by having healthy cattle, because that results in healthy beef when we're trying to feed a growing population in the world. So many different levels to communicate on one single product. And like you were saying, sometimes the message needs to be, what does this vaccine do? How much does it cost? What's the turnaround time? What's the withdrawal time? And how does it compare to the other, products on the market? At the same time, if we know what it does, but we need to know why this company is any better, let's look at that inside story of, what is their mission? How can you relate to them? How are they trying to make your operation and your life as a cattle producer better, more profitable, and more enjoyable for the livestock?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally it. And that's what we do with all of the brands that whether it's a tractor brand or it's, a computer brand or the kind of shoes you wear. There is some reason why we'll go to bat for whichever brand, because we care. There's something along the way made us care. And when we see some of these big brands doing things like, hey, I know we're just a shoe company, but we're also going to be helping the world by giving a pair of shoes for every shoe that we sell, like Tom's. That is sweet, right? I'm like, well, if I got a choice to buy a pair of shoes from Tom's or a pair of Nikes, the Nikes are sweet, but like, man, I'm helping somebody else by buying it. Shoot, I guess there's a story here, right? So I'm dropping the mic. That's all I got to say about that. Okay. Sorry.
Now, folks, if you're interested in getting your own custom-built outline for your business, sign up for our video strategy workshop, where we'll walk you through every step talked about in this podcast, in depth, in detail, custom to your business. We'll have a one-on-one meeting with your entire marketing team to discuss your current business structure, your marketing efforts, what your new campaign goals are, and your marketing budget for the project. After the workshop, you will receive a customized strategy outline that guides you through exactly what kind of videos you're supposed to use, when, and where. So for more information or to book your private session, visit backroad-productions.com/workshop. Okay, so one of the things that I have seen repeatedly, and I think it's something that people just kind of fall into this trap, when they produce a video, they may have the right elements that they want to show. They know what's important to their clients. They know what their clients care about, but they
Yep.
have 3 and 4 different people in the video talking about something different that's all relative to the client and to what they need to
Yeah.
know, but it covers 3 or 4 different topics. So they're
Yep.
kind of they're doing what we're talking about, but are they doing it to the right effect?
Yeah, that's really good. I feel like whenever that happens, like we do so many pieces where we might be with the founder of the company and then her 3 right-hand people, and we get so many good sound bites. It's like, oh man, that was really good, but that doesn't relate to the core message that we're going to for this piece. I wonder, could we just create like a little breakout edit and just have a couple of 2, 3, 4, 5 little pieces that could be used on social media or kind of wherever else, but someplace, because it's valuable. And the nice thing about social media today is that there's so many different ways to use content. If it's an audiogram or if it's just a quote behind like a really pretty picture, a little video a little video snippet from a longer format video interview. There's just a lot of different ways to use stuff like that. So I always feel like, okay, well, this person just talked about 3 different things, but we really just needed them to talk about the one thing. But those other 2 things are pretty good. So, number one, if what they're talking about doesn't support our main objective for the video, we have a conversation with the client before this interview even happens. And we just tell them, hey, we're not going to use everything. And some people might get cut. And it's kind of your job to set the expectation with your people that might feel offended or hurt that, they didn't get to be in the video. But that's not what's most important. We say like politics is garbage. Like, we're not going to put the CEO in the video just because the CEO has a thing and just needs to be in the video.
Right.
I mean, if they pay us enough money, we'll do it. We're going to push back and we're going to say this doesn't fit, doesn't work. It would work better if not the CEO was in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we're going to try to guide our clients from the beginning, so that when we do get the interviewee that kind of is talking about all things that don't matter, rambling, isn't getting to the point, isn't helping us with the key message, isn't giving us any supporting stuff or things, we'll do our best on the fly to ask the question differently. Maybe we'll even feed them a line that like, well, this would be really good if they said exactly this thing, if they
Right.
believe it, if they agree with it. So is that kind of what you're talking about? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's a good element, and maybe to dig in further to it, I guess, how do you help the client determine how narrow to go with that one thing? Because if we're talking about, okay, what does the customer need to know? What is the problem that we're going to solve? That can be one thing, but we can talk about that problem maybe with 3 different people from 3 different angles sometimes. So how do you help that client narrow down to determining the exact, we'll say, one liner that they want to communicate to their customers?
Yeah. Yeah. So number one, in the workshop that we do before any production starts to get alignment with their team, we're talking about, we agree on 3 to 5 pillars, things that, that somehow should be communicated that are going to support this main idea. And then we'll even have an exercise that we go through with them where we say, like, who needs to be in this? Does anybody need to be in it? Is it just a voiceover? And if people are going to be in it, like, who should be in it? Like, who are some? Let's just we're not locking anything in right now. Just throw out some people and why they should be in it. And then if they can be attached to any of the messaging that we've kind of talked about, or any of the pillars, if they gravitate toward being able to speak into those things. And I feel like at that point, we've got the leadership team, all the stakeholders of this project there. They know their people, and they know what these people that they're talking about should be in the video can definitely speak to. So we haven't, I feel like we've had a pretty good success rate since doing this workshop of getting the sound bites that we need. And if we don't get it from that person through in a softball kind of question, we still know exactly what it is that we need these people to say because of this blueprint that we've created with the client beforehand that says, so-and-so needs to talk about how important it is for us to raise our cattle in Kentucky. Sorry for my slow brain here. So if they can talk about that, great. So they don't talk about it in the interview, and we're kind of like, oh man, they didn't say it. We asked them, they did. Okay, hey, could you just talk very specifically and just start your sentence with, cattle need to be raised in Kentucky because, and then let them finish that sentence. That's how we'll break it down. We kind of start with the end in mind, knowing that at the end of the day, we need a sentence or some kind of a message from this person that says something like this. And we'll, formulate our questions around that. And then if we don't get there, then we really just say like, okay, like here's what I need you to do. Say this. And then if they still can't finish that sentence, then I'll even go one step further and just say like, hey, can you just say cattle need to be raised in Kentucky, or whatever the thing is.
Is it safe to say that as you are developing the concept and the story of that video, that you are essentially making the message into one sentence or two sentences of what you're trying to communicate, and then all the content is based around those one or two lines? Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think the shorter we can make that, the better. I would say that there might be times where it's longer than two sentences, but the shorter we can make it, the better. I think it depends on the scope of the project. If it's a really big project, maybe we're trying to explain ourselves a little bit better. But who is it, like Thomas Edison or somebody said, I would have made this letter shorter, but I didn't have enough time. Right. So the idea that, it takes a lot of time to,
yes.
And people will say like, oh, we just need a really short video. It's like, well, a really short video is going to take a lot more brain power for all of us than a long one. So actually we prefer to do a long one,
right?
Unless you want to pay for a really short one. That's going to cost a lot more money.
So we kind of talked about this earlier, but I want to highlight again real quick. Whenever you're working with a client, how do you help them determine if the message should be more focused on the marketing, product oriented, or more of a branding message?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's going to be something that I try to get answered on the phone call. If we can't get it answered on the phone call and they say, all right, yeah, we're excited about working with you guys, we'll cover the details more inside of the workshop. So then inside of the workshop, that's really where we're going to say like, okay, what is the purpose of this video? And as they talk about the purpose of the video, then we're gonna have a better understanding and we'll present to them, well, this sounds like this might be more top of funnel, which means, more a brand awareness piece, which means it's going to be more story driven. So that means the direction will be like this. Or if we're feeling like, wow, this is really, you really just need something that where somebody's kind of just explaining the features and the benefits, and maybe we share a story in that, but it's not going to be just story. It's maybe a little bit of story, but like here are the features and the benefits, and we present that and say like, does that sound good? Does that seem like the direction we need to go? And to get their leadership team all to agree on that, and then from that point forward, the rest of the meeting, the rest of that workshop is going to be built around knowing that that's kind of the structure. That's what we're going in, because we know that depending on the type of video will really determine what needs to be included and how it needs to flow.
Right. So let's get real for a minute here. And you're talking about in the workshops you're doing, the clients you've worked with. What would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that your clients have made, or that you've made, in working with your clients when it comes to developing this key message?
Well, we don't make mistakes. Number one, let's start there. Two, I'm just kidding. Well, let me say this. Prior to us doing the workshop, we made a lot of mistakes. Our client would make a lot of mistakes. There would be a lot of missed expectations, unmet expectations, unspoken expectations. Maybe you're kind of understanding what I'm saying here. Since doing the workshop, we've really been able to set clear expectations with our clients. So at the end of a project, our clients are way happier. Our team is way less confused. The product is way better. So, going through this process, we haven't had as many problems or issues. There have been things that have come up and have been frustrating, and so we worked through those. But holy cow, the frustration and missed expectations has decreased significantly since we've spent a decent amount of time prior to anybody hitting record on a camera and doing any of that. So that's been a huge win for us and for our clients. But I think, prior to that, only because in the workshop, we're really trying to go over the areas that we know have caused frustration and,
Right.
people yelling at me. Not having a clear goal, like what is a win for this video? What do we need it to do? Not having a focus, not having a clearly defined audience, like who is the one person that we're trying to speak to. And then, using it as a brag session to talk about how great you are. In the past where we would just like follow directions. If somebody said like, this is what we need. And without us saying like, well, shoot, you're saying that you need it to be this bragging piece, but this whole conversation, it sounds like this needs to be a brand awareness piece, and those things don't go together. You can't brag about yourself for a brand awareness piece. It's not. And maybe the people that you are speaking to like want that, but for our ideal client, that's just not, we're not interested in that kind of work. So
Right. It's a very small pocket if you can find someone that wants to hear all about how great you are when they first meet you.
Right. And people don't want to be sold to. They don't want to feel like you're trying to sell them something. They don't want to, for me, like the more human we can make our videos and our films, like the better they're going to resonate with people. So think of it, when you meet somebody, if all you do is talk about yourself, you're going to feel like the conversation went great, and the person's going to be like, get me out of here as soon as possible.
Right.
And the same thing we need to do with our videos is think about the person watching this is a human being, and they have a pulse and they care about things other than all about you, right? They care about themselves. So if in your presentation, in your video, you can say, here's how I would love to be able to help you. Here's how we have helped other clients like yours succeed. Here are the problems that we help solve. That's way more helpful than, trying to strong arm people into hiring you versus the bad guy down the street.
Now you can drop the mic. Very, very good stuff, Ryan. I think it really speaks to the heart of storytelling, video marketing, as we look at how it's all changed in the last 10 to 20 years. We can't deny the fact that marketing has changed, that video production has changed, our clientele and their needs have changed, and we have to adapt to that. And it's something that is challenging sometimes to wrap our minds around what is that key message. But I think as you talk today, identifying who that person is and what they need to hear, not necessarily what you want to tell them, but what they need to hear to make that decision is crucial in creating an effective campaign.
Yeah, love it. Austin, thanks so much for having me. This is super fun, and I'm excited for the work that you're doing, and hope that you continue to take the agriculture industry in Kentucky. I'm just kidding. I was going to try to niche it down by storm and just keep rocking and rolling, man. You're a total stud.
Awesome, Ryan. Well, thank you so much for being on here today. Look forward to working with you more in the future, and peace out, brother.
Peace out, man. Thank you.
Well, folks, I tell you what, if nothing else, we have a good time, Ryan and I. He has such a great understanding about storytelling, a wonderful sense of humor, and a passion for brand films and for video production. So I'm so glad we had a chance to visit with him today. Hopefully you gained some insight into how to develop your marketing message, how to keep it simple, clear, and concise, and why that is so important in reaching customers in today's cluttered culture. For more information about Tell Studios and Studio Sherpas, click on the show notes page at backroad-productions.com/podcast. Folks, thanks for tuning in to episode number 3. We'll see you next week on the In Focus podcast.